In business and in life in general, there is no status quo. You either go forward or backward. The status quo does not exist. So, with the couple of interesting months that we've been living, we know that it is time to reinvent ourselves. The World Economic Forum named it the biggest reset. So, it is time to reinvent ourselves and our business. And who better than a reinvention expert to talk about reinventing ourselves, that next evolution of who we are. So this week we have a very special guest, Danielle Silverman, who will talk about reinvention, and make sure you stay till the end, obviously, because she has some great question. But really, there is one question in particular that I am so running with, and that is a question that you'll be able to use when you'll do your annual brainstorming session or any meeting that you want to have with your team to reach that new level, that reinvention, that next step for your business. Danielle, thank you so much for accepting my invitation in this very interesting time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So Danielle, before we dive into today's topic, which is so on point with what we are living right now, if you could take a moment and introduce yourself for everyone who doesn't know you yet.
Sure, thanks. So I'm a coach and a speaker. And for a very, very long time, I worked helping people who were in transition. And as a speaker, the topic that I speak on is change. Whether it's for individuals or organizations, how they approach change. And I was looking for what to call myself. I didn't want to call myself a change agent. It just didn't work for me. And then one day, a friend of mine introduced me via a workshop to an amazing woman named Dr. Nadia Zhikshambayeva. And I heard the word reinvention there for the first time, and I was completely gobsmacked. It really resonated. The word reinvention resonated with me. It meant something. And so I was one of the first people to actually follow her program and become a certified reinvention practitioner, which means I help individuals and organizations reinvent themselves. And with one of my colleagues, another certified reinvention practitioner, we created Reinvention Canada with the aim of helping small and medium-sized businesses reinvent themselves, which means not just survive change and anything else, but really to thrive. And at the same time, I also help individuals because I think we as individuals, we need to constantly change. Think of young people who are changing jobs every couple of years. It's to learn something new. It's to adjust to the market. It's to, just to reinvent.
And it's so on point with everything that we're living. So I'm curious, what are the biggest challenges that you see when you guide people or you help navigate people through change, through reinvention?
I think the first thing is that people don't realize that change is here to stay. Yes. It's not a bug that you have to try and get over. It is a way of life. It's a constant in our lives. And so we have to have the tools to be able to adjust on a continuous basis. But I think the most important thing is that organizations don't understand that the life cycle of an organization has changed. Back in the 1950s, in the industrial age, if you will, the life cycle of an organization was about 75 years. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it really was. So you reached your peak at about, somewhere between 20 and 40 years before an inevitable decline. So you had 20 to 40 years to be able to adjust to new competitors coming in, adjust to any kind of disaster that might have surfaced. Well, studies today have shown that the life cycle of an organization is more like 6 years long.
Wow.
Which means you have to, 5 to 6 years, which means you really have to readjust yourself within 2 or 3 years. And if you don't, then the organization will inevitably die. There's no other word for it. And technology companies, it's even shorter.
Yeah, and a lot of people who are listening to us are service-based entrepreneurs, and it completely applies as well. So a lot of our audience here today are in the financial services industry. There's other services, but there's many in the financial services industry, and it's looking what was in the 2000 or at the end of the 90s versus now. It's not the same industry at all.
It's not the same industry, and like any other industry, it needs to adapt to whatever is going on. Technology is going to transform every industry, education, government, finance, they're all at risk.
Yes.
Really.
And what do you see the mistakes that people do?
Well, there are several. You know, we talk about something called the Titanic syndrome, which is about organizations who don't think ahead about what needs to be done. So some of them think, oh, well, you know, it worked in the past, so it'll work now. That's a fallacy. Other people think, you know, it's not broken, so why fix it? Well, the problem is if you don't start to think about what can happen, then you might be too late because somebody else is already thinking of it. So it could be, you know, arrogance, relying on past successes. It could be not heeding warnings about what's going on. So how often do you actually listen to your clients, to your competitors, to your suppliers about what's going on? Do you practice things constantly? Do you have the tools that you need to be able to turn around on a dime if you have to?
And do you have the mindset also to be able
Correct.
to think differently? And
absolutely.
Maybe, you know, set and look at your own limiting beliefs and your own, you know, because we are our best friend, but we're also our worst enemies, right?
Yeah, totally.
So
the difference actually in mindset, the reinvention mindset talks about how do you view change? You know, you change as normal, as something you live every day. In another kind of mindset, you know, and we always put a question mark. What would you call this mindset? You know, people who view change as the enemy, if you will. And we get people saying, you know, you see that as a stuck mindset or a dinosaur mindset or something like that.
A fixed mindset versus
mindset. A fixed mindset, yes.
Yes.
Right.
And do you find that with the pandemic, now more than ever, the reinvention is paramount for entrepreneurs?
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, you know, if you look at the World Economic Forum, they post all of the risks that are likely to happen and affect organizations. And pandemic was up there in the top right-hand quadrant. So we knew it was coming, right? People who studied this knew it was coming. But so that's what's in part what I talk about when, you know, we talk about warnings. That's in part what I mean. So we knew it was coming, but most people didn't realize that it could come or it could hit us. So it happened really fast.
Yes.
And there were industries that were not obliterated, but that risk being, you know, think of the restaurant industry, think of education, think of, you know, salons, a lot of service-based industries that had to shut down completely, that were tremendously affected.
Yes.
So there is a way to, first of all, build the muscles to anticipate change, and then to design change within your organization so that you can constantly be reviewing. You know, it's about trying things. It's not about fixing things, leaving it, and then thinking it's going to work. It's about trying something. If it doesn't work, then you try something else. You put in iterations, very much like they do in manufacturing with Scrum or with Agile.
Yeah. So version 1, version 2, version 3.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when I hear the word reinvention, and I think some people will also have the same reflection that I have, is when I hear the word reinvention, for me, it means scrapping everything that we've done and starting everything new.
So that's a wonderful comment. Thank you for bringing that up. That's actually a fallacy, because reinvention is not about throwing out the baby with the bathwater. It's about recognizing what is good and keeping that, and changing what is not working. So having the awareness of finding out, okay, what is it that's not working? And let's fix that.
And I'm a huge fan of also the World Economic Forum. I read a lot of their insight, and they actually call the pandemic the greatest reset, the biggest reset.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really shifts, where we were. So they also say that we are moving from an era of information to an era of insight.
Yes.
So when we're a service-based entrepreneur, we need to reinvention. And the way now that I'm seeing the word reinvention is more like evolution, not revolution.
Absolutely. That's the perfect word, is evolution.
So it's like, and understanding, I think in every entrepreneur, we need to understand that what was is not what will be.
And it's about, and it's about sustaining life, really. So there are a lot of concepts of biomimicry also that come into play. It's what are the conditions that are conducive to life, to the life of an organization.
So if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm listening, and I understand that it is time to take a step back and look at my business and reinvent in terms of the next step of it, what are some actionable steps that I can take, that I should maybe consider taking in my business?
Well, I think the first thing is to sit down and find out where you're at, do a diagnostic of the organization, and find out what your capacity is for reinvention. Are you able to anticipate change? Are you able to design change? Are you able to implement change? And find out where your strengths are in that regard. And then there's so many different things. It depends on really what the need of the organization is. I mean, I know some companies sit down with a team of people and do an exercise called Kill Your Company.
Kill your company.
Yes.
Okay.
Come up with ideas of what could kill your company.
Oh my gosh.
What are the things that would make your company disappear tomorrow? And then try and figure out how to counter that. So what measures you would take to avoid that. So think about it ahead of time.
I love
what happened to you.
And that is a great brainstorming idea.
It is.
That you're doing because with your team. So what could kill our business practice?
Correct.
And then from there, and it's fun because when you actually ask those type of questions, the creativity that comes, like some of them will make sense, but some of them will be so far-fetched, but that is where you get the best ideas.
Absolutely. And at the same time, it involves people in understanding the business, and being able to help and build the business and become agile.
And I love it. Like Richard Branson, that's pretty much how he started his airline company. They took everything that they hated from airline companies.
Right.
Like the stewardess were like, are like, it's no fun. The seats are too small. They're too close. And they actually created the opposite of that.
Right. Right.
And
so look what's happening to the airline industry, and not just because of the pandemic, even before the pandemic. Think of the number of airlines that used to exist that no longer exist.
Oh, but I love
think of, we talk about the graveyard of Titanics. Think of companies like Kodak. You know that Kodak was the first company in photography to come up with the digital concept.
Yes, I did hear that. And they didn't do anything with it because they didn't think that it would go anywhere.
They didn't think it would go anywhere.
Yes.
So what happened?
Mm.
They're in the graveyard. Nokia, oh my goodness, Blockbuster. Netflix went to its very, very, very beginnings. The head of Netflix went to meet the head of Blockbuster and offered this amazing idea to take over some of the things and to have people,
It was a mail-in product offering.
yeah. And the head of Blockbuster said, no, I don't think that'll work.
And
look at where Netflix is and look at where Blockbuster is.
Yeah, who's laughing to the bank now? But I love that question. And I'm like thinking like, what could kill my business?
Yeah.
Because me too, when the pandemic hit, a part of my business model was in person, was doing conferences and whatnot. So from one day to another, I ended up with almost no business.
Right.
But at least I had the insight that I've been working to be able to do online programs and online groups and whatnot. So, but it's what could kill my business? The pandemic. And I know for many coaches, it actually killed their business because everything was in person.
Everything was in person. It's interesting because I've been doing virtual coaching since 2006.
Wow.
Yeah, on the phone. We didn't have Zoom.
Yeah.
We had Skype, which worked. So I never liked it. Maybe I wasn't supposed to say that. But yeah, on the phone. Yes. So it wasn't a stretch, to continue to do that. What was a stretch perhaps was to do a keynote.
Yes.
And so then you had to learn technology, but lots of people came on and are much better than I am at the technology. It's unbelievable what people do today.
Mm.
Really.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
And I hope the people who are watching are actually going to run with that question. What could kill my business? I think that is like the starting point of reinvention.
It's one of. I think it really depends on the organization's needs.
Yes.
It's very much like process consulting, if you will. You have to go and find out what the issue is, really deep down. It could be a culture issue. Working with a company now where they want to change the culture of the organization, and so we're talking about employee engagement and culture. So it's so in their case, what will keep the company alive, if you want to talk about killing the company, is making sure that customers keep coming back. And what will make sure the customers keep coming back is if employees are engaged and if they do, if they believe in the culture and they help their clients to the point that they want to come back.
Yes, and we know that in the new reality, I'm not a big fan of that word, but in that new creation of that new reality that we're entering, client experience is by far the new battleground.
Absolutely.
And that you offer, consulting advice, that you offer financial advice, that you offer, health advice, that you even sell cars.
Yes.
The client experience is by far the new battleground.
There's a whole industry around user experience.
Yes.
That didn't exist 10 years ago. Well, it did, but I think not to the extent that it does now.
No, now it's really, really what's really coming back. So to wrap it up is to understand that it is the time, probably more than ever in history, to reinvent. And reinvent is not about scrapping the old and just starting from new. It's taking what's working and moving the next level from that. Correct. Yeah. Asking that question. One of the great question that we could start is, what could kill my business?
Well, the thing is, if you're doing well, mm-hmm. the question could be, what could kill my business? Yes. So to think ahead of time. Mm-hmm. But if you're struggling, if you don't know, and there are some issues, then we have to figure out what those issues are. And so the question might not be what might kill my company, because you already know what's happening, right? So it's how do you turn it around? How do you fix it? And for that, there are any number of tools that we have,
Nice.
from business models to, I mean, there's like 15 different ways to reinvent.
Yes,
With
definitely.
a whole philosophy and a whole mindset and tool set and skill set around reinvention.
Nice. Danielle, thank you so much. If people are ready to explore and reinvent their next version of themselves and of their business, where can they find more about you, what you do? Where can they find you on the web?
So I would go to LinkedIn and
Mhm.
search for Reinvention Canada.
Yes.
So there's that. I think we have we don't think, I know we have a Facebook page as well, Reinvention Canada. You know, they can reach me personally if they want, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I won't give you my personal website because it's not. It needs to be updated. So
It needs to be reinvented.
it needs to be reinvented. Absolutely.
Perfect. So what we'll do is actually in the description of the video, we'll put the links to Reinvention Canada. I think you have a lot of things going on in Reinvention Canada to help entrepreneurs,
Absolutely.
right? So I'll put those links there for them so they can explore those conversations, explore those resources, and really become the next version of their business.
Yeah. I think there are some things that people need to understand about what the world is like today and what we need to become. So the important thing, as I said earlier, was that we need to reinvent every 2 to 3 years in order to survive.
Wow.
And the issue is not about perfection. You used to be, everything had to be perfect. Now it's about speed to market.
Yes.
So speed to market means you don't have time to get perfect. You try different things. If they don't work, you try something else. But you really, it's about speed to market, because if you don't do it, somebody else will. One career is no longer the thing. It's many careers, often simultaneous. It used to be narrow specialization. Now we talk about cross-functional competence.
Yes.
We used to talk about products and services. Now we talk about solutions and experiences. We used to talk about, this is interesting, my favorite actually, we used to talk about competition. Now we talk about co-opetition.
Yes.
When you cooperate with your competition, there's room out there. Your competition is not the enemy. And then finally, people used to see change as a bug, something you just have to get over. It's not, it's a feature. So I think it's important to understand this is the world that we live in.
So true. So true. Really, I think on that note, there's nothing more to add. It's like, there it is, people. There it is, It's time to reinvent. And there's a beauty in reinvention.
There is. There's an energy in it. There's a positive energy. And we use appreciative inquiry. We look at what is good, not what is bad. That if you have time, there's a beautiful example that I have of a company that was a car mechanic. And they decided to do a survey one day, and because they noticed that customers were leaving.
Okay.
So they had a choice to either ask customers why they were leaving, but they decided not to, because customers were leaving because they moved or whatever reason, doesn't matter. But they decided instead to ask customers why they were staying, those customers who stayed with them. And they found out something they didn't know, was that they stayed, even if they lived 5 miles or 10 miles away, and they had a service station or a mechanic near where they lived, they decided to stay with this place because they offered free car wash after every service.
And that is a client experience.
That's the client experience. And but not just that, that's looking at the positive side of things.
Yes.
What do people appreciate? As opposed to, why are they leaving? Or How does it help build your experience? How does it help build your company? I
I
don't know why they're staying.
so many nuggets that you've shared with us to be able to help us and give us tools in our toolbox to reinvent ourselves and our business, because that is the new reality.
It is.
And that is,
That's why I love working in this, because it's joyful.
yes, totally. And you are a joy to work with, definitely. Danielle, thank you so much for accepting my invitation. I'll make sure I put all the links in the description of the video so people can go and explore those resources and, yes, reinvent who they are and their business. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. It's been a pleasure.
I hope you liked this episode. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're looking for more tools to reinvent your business and tools on marketing, productivity, and mindset, come on over to our website and join our blog. So each week I share with you interviews like these, but also exclusive resources and tips to build and grow your service-based business. Now, your mission this week is to start asking yourself good questions to reinvent yourself, your business. And when we start asking those questions, we see that truly so much more is possible. Thank you for being here week after week, and I will see you next Tuesday.